Hello and welcome to the Daily Mill for Wednesday the 4th of February 2026. In today's Mill news, we have a bit of inside information. It hasn't leaked out, it's just Alex Neil just straight up told us. So here we go. So what happened with the Aidomo Emakhu transfer? Alex Neil tells us, and this is from the southernnews.co.uk. So he admits Mill did not want to sell Aidomo Emakhu, and he reveals the reason for the departure. Alex Neil admitted Mill did not want to sell Aidomo Emakhu, but revealed the club would not reach an agreement with the winger over a new contract. Oxford United completed the signing of the 22-year-old on deadline day for what this paper understands to be a 7-figure fee. So that means, if you don't know what that means at least £1 million. And Emakhu signed a 3.5-year contract with the U. So again, we heard the other day from the BBC it was a 2.5-year contract, but they're saying it's a 3.5-year contract. The Irishman had attracted interest from several Championship clubs, and Mill's capture of winger Tommy Watson on loan from Brighton and Hove Albion paved the way for him to complete his move. We didn't really want Aidomo to leave, we've been talking to him about a new contract, but we couldn't get to an agreement. His contract was running down, and he phoned me and he spoke to me himself, and he wanted to go. When that happens and we can't get an agreement, we're not going to get that money again in the summer. His contract's running down, and it made sense from his perspective and from our perspective. I think we got a really good deal on him. As far as the money's concerned, all I know, I think it's only fair on the kid when he's asking to leave and we can't get an agreement on the contract. It was best for both parties. Emakhu made 31 appearances in all competitions for the Lions this season, scoring 2 goals and assisting 3. He signed for Millwall from Shamrock Rovers in January 2023 for just over £100,000 and leaves SC16 having made 82 appearances for the club. So there you go. But, so he said we're not going to get that money again in the summer. Yeah, like I said, there would have been compensation because he's under the age of 24. And he is a first-team player who's played first-team games and scored in the first team. So, in terms of that, now I think there was a thing with... There's a big thing. So this is the thing with the clubs now. They don't want to go to tribunals anymore because there was one involving a Liverpool player and the tribunal said, well, he's worth 3.2 million. And everyone's like, what? Because, you go to a tribunal, it's considered, well, you get peanuts. But the tribunal said, well, no, he's played for Liverpool's first team. Liverpool, one of the best teams in Europe, best teams in the world. 3.2 million. It's like, jeez, okay. So now they're trying to avoid all that. So apparently they paid $1 million. Well, did they pay $1 million? The deal was worth $1 million. Again, so... And again, did Shamrock Rovers have a percentage of the fee? So there you go. But I'm sure we made a profit, which is, it's all well and good. In terms of, the financial fair play rules and all that stuff. So... we certainly made a lot more than £100,000. And, like I said the other day, it's a win-win. It's a win for him, it's a win for us. If Shamrock Rovers had a percentage, it's a win for them. Oxford United, it's a win for them. Everyone wins. What a great deal. A deal where everyone wins. Fantastic. Now, also, this from Alex Neil. Mill boss, we're pleased with the business that we've done. He discusses the latest signings and striker depth. Obviously, here's the thing. He's not the main man doing the transfers. He may have some input, and I imagine he had a lot of input this time around because we signed Anthony Patterson, who he managed, and he signed Tommy Watson, who was probably in the youth teams at Sunderland when he was Sunderland manager. So he must... certainly knows Patterson, must know, So, it's funny how they came out of the blue in the last week. Is it literally Gallant's trying to say, oh, we got this, we got that, And then, but oh no, and you're like, how like were there other deals that didn't come through that were falling apart? And then Alex Neil's got his phone out and went, bosh, there you go, there's a goalkeeper and there's a winger. Is that what's happened? I don't know. And that's the thing, you can do all this stuff and you can have all these connections with this company and all that, but it's about, it's a people's business. You got to know people. You got to know that, it's not what you know, it's who you know, shall we say. So there you go. Alex Neil said Millwall are pleased with the business they completed this transfer window, explaining that the Lions' latest signings will bring and why he believes the club are well covered at the top of the pitch. Yes, one of the main talking points is why no striker? Well, because they cost at least £5 million unless you want to buy a shit one. So, I mean, Millwall added 3 players in January: goalkeeper Anthony Patterson, winger Tommy Watson and midfielder Bally Bannon, and rejected several bids for star winger Femi Aziz. Aidomo Emakhu was sold to Oxford United, while Wes Harding and Kamal Grant were loaned to Plymouth Argyle and Blackpool respectively. Youngsters AJ Matthews and Jack Howland also moved out on loan, joining Leyton Orient and Barnet. I'm pleased with the squad. I think we're pleased with the business that we've done. All in all, we're happy. Bannon made his debut against Sheffield United last Saturday, coming off the bench in the 70th minute. A day later, the Lions completed loan deals for Patterson and Watson. Patterson's been up this level, he's calm, when everything's sort of chaotic around him, he's calm and he makes vital saves. He's got an understanding of what the playoffs look like, and he's got an understanding of what big games look like. He's been promoted twice before, I think that helps. But more importantly, we brought him in as well, in the fact that we need the extra competition in that area of the pitch, which is important. Yes, that's the thing. Much like Alex Neil, Patterson has won the League One playoffs with Alex Neil and Sunderland, and he's won the Championship playoffs with Sunderland, but not with Alex Neil because he left by then. Tom Watson, he's a really talented kid. He's still young, but he's got his best years ahead of him. But again, he had big moments as a young player, albeit limited in terms of time. He's definitely got quality, and hopefully can add an extra strength to our ball going forward. Mill did attempt to do more business. They were interested in 20-year-old Sheffield Wednesday striker Bailey Calamatri, who completed a move to Wrexham on deadline day. Neil was asked if there was any disappointment that the club did not add a new striker in the window. I don't think there's any disappointment in the window in general. The simple fact is that some of the deals happen and some deals don't happen for a variety of different reasons. And now that we've got Josh Coburn back, we've got Mihailo firing and we've got Maka, who's been playing recently, and we've got 3 strikers, and that's not including other guys that we could arguably put up there if we need to. So from that perspective, we've got more than enough players at the top end of the pitch at the moment. There you go. Alex Neil's happy. You happy? I'm happy. Well, until we play Wrexham, and then depending on the result of that game, I might be or I might not be happy. 2 other bits of news, and then we're going to have a look at something. Right. So this pops up. FootballInsider247.com. Ex-Millwall defender who was sent off on debut has odds slashed to be the next Celtic manager. Do you know who that is? No cheating, no looking it up. Off the top of your head, can you tell who it is? I'll give you a clue. He was on loan. Did you get it? Do you remember? He was on loan from Norwich City. So, yeah, Celtic had a right old nightmare, didn't they? They put this guy Wilfred Nancy, and I'd never heard of the guy. Never fucking heard of him. And that's when Martin O'Neill was holding the ship. He was doing fantastically. And they said, well, you're too old because you're like 75 years old or whatever. You could fucking die at any moment. So we can't have that. So we're going to get this other guy in. And he was a complete fucking joke. The other guy was just so bad. But the guy we're talking about, the Millwall defender, well, he's on loan. Jens Berthel Askew. He's edging towards Celtic appointment. Yeah, he's an excellent debut campaign in charge of Motherwell. I didn't know. I know, I see, not really keeping an eye on Scottish football by the way. But I do know that Hearts are top of the league, and that's quite interesting. And Rangers haven't had the best of years over the past 5 to 10 years. Going bankrupt, everything because they go down to the bottom and work their way back up. And they have been a bit off it recently, but Celtic have been firing on all cylinders until this season when Hearts have taken over and Celtic have started to be on a bit of a wobble. So there you go. We could have the first non-old firm winner of the division in a long old time. And I would imagine once that happens, they'll probably change the structure of the league. Because they keep talking about doing it, and then the top two teams say, yeah, you ain't changing the fucking league, it's staying how it is, we're going to do it this way. And then, I imagine as soon as not one of them doesn't win the league, they'll probably, let's change the divisions, let's do this and that, let's restructure the thing. But apparently, so this guy, if you don't remember, he was on loan 2011. He's Danish. He was at Norwich City as defender. He came on loan to us. If we go down, obviously I don't give a fuck about all that shit, but just interesting. I didn't even know he was a manager now. The former centre back also had a loan spell with Motherwell, with Millwall back in 2011, but he was shown a straight red card in his debut for the Lions against Leicester City. Yeah, so there you go. And I think basically that was it, because I think it was a month loan. Obviously, you get a free game ban. You play in the first game of a month. You get a free game ban, and then that's it. Sayonara, sucker. So there you go. Still bald. He looks exactly the same as he did then. 2011. So what's that? It's 15 years ago. Damn, that's a long old time ago, isn't it? Now, another one. Apparently, it's World Cancer Day today. Is this going to change? This keeps changing, so I don't know if it's going to... Okay, it's not changing. So, apparently today... So, this is from usatoday.com. Kasey Keller, former Millwall goalkeeper. He reveals his 16-year cancer journey. He's had cancer. And he didn't make it public until today. Dealing with it on his own, or I guess with his family and friends, but not making it a public issue. So yeah, a long-time US men's national team goalkeeper Kasey Keller has revealed that he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma in 2010. Keller, 56, shared his... Here we go, I knew that was going to happen. Okay, here we go. I fucking knew that was going to happen. Okay, let's try again. Shared his story for the first time on World Cancer Day, thankfully also noting that he's in full remission. In 2010, Keller went in for an MRI for a hip injury during his time with the Seattle Sounders, and doctors noticed something concerning during the scan, and 5 days later the goalkeeper received a cancer diagnosis. Because the lymphoma was slow-moving, doctors determined that it didn't really require immediate treatment, and Keller was able to continue his career. So they say, "Oh, you've got cancer." Oh no, I've got cancer, but it's really slow. So come back, and see us in the future. We'll keep an eye on it, but at the moment, that's kind of weird. Oh, you've got cancer, but it's moving like a snail, so we'll just have to keep checking up on it every year to see if it starts suddenly going quickly. Jesus Christ. So he played on for another year. In 2011, Keller retired at age 41 and embarked on a career in broadcasting. Keller began experiencing weight loss and swollen lymph nodes in 2017, so 6 years later. So this is 7 years after the diagnosis, 6 years after he retired. They tell you got cancer, And it's 6 years later. Presumably he checks in every year, and they go, no, not this year. No, it's still really slow. Come back next year, and we'll see if it's sped up. So in 2017, he has problems, symptoms, I think they call it, with doctors informing that his diagnosis had changed to large B-cell lymphoma, LBCL. After trying several different treatments options with no success, Keller was among the first people to try the new drug, Breyanzi, when it was introduced in 2021. So let's just recap that. 2017, they tell him, oh yeah, it started to get worse now. And he's doing this, he's doing that. So 4 years later, a new drug comes out and they say, well, try this. The results were immediate. Keller was in remission within 2 months and was given a declaration of no evidence of disease at 14 weeks. Wow. And this is the thing, they're doing some amazing stuff with drugs, and things, new drugs, but in America, but also in around the world. I told you, when we signed Will Smallbone, it was kind of confusing because he had alopecia, and then you go to find out that, they've cured that now. You take a pill, and your hair grows back. It's like, what? And you see the stuff with Ozempic and Manjaro and all that other stuff, and there's even what else have they cured that we don't, that isn't public knowledge? It's insane what they're doing. But Breyanzi, and it cures lymphoma. It's insane. No chemo, no radiotherapy. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe you do have to take it as a IV. Maybe it's not a pill, but man, 2 months and it removes. It gets rid of your cancer. Still cancer free to this day. Keller decided to share his story through Bristol Myers Squibb, the maker of Breyanzi. And and this is the thing, I never heard of it. But here he is, talking about it, and now I do know about it, and so do you if you're watching this. No one should have to navigate this alone. If hearing what I went through helps someone else feel empowered to take their next step, then it's worth it, Keller said. Who is Kasey Keller? Well, Keller enjoyed one of the most successful careers of any American goalkeeper, both for club and country. At the club level, Keller represented a number of top-tier European teams, including Millwall, Leicester City, Rayo Vallecano, Tottenham Hotspurs, Borussia Mönchengladbach and Fulham. Keller was on 4 World Cup rosters for the USA team, starting at the 1998 and 2006 tournaments. When he retired, Keller was the all-time USA leader in caps with 102. He now sits second after he was passed by Tim Howard, another keeper. Keller was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in 2015. And that would have been 2 years before it got worse, but he knew he had cancer. So there you go. Fantastic stuff they're doing in the US of A with all these drugs and medicines and stuff. Fantastic stuff. And that's what you get, Does cost a lot of money, doesn't it? But you're getting the best. You're getting drugs that can remove cancer from your body within 2 months. Absolutely incredible. Now, we're going to finish. The rest of the video is basically this. It's going to be a while, so the transfers are done. They're done. The incomings are done. The outgoings can still happen. This is from footballdatabase.eu, and what this is, I've shown this on before once. It's a list of all the championship teams and their transfers, ins and outs. Now, it's not 100%. We proved that when we looked at it last time because there were some things missing that we know about. So, but I'm pretty certain, it's as close as we're going to get. It's 90% plus accurate. So, and it goes back to next summer, and it also has the thing where it's got players returning from loans. They count as a player coming in and all that. And they also have, whenever a player like joins the coaching staff, they have that as well. But basically, the information's here. So, who did well and who didn't do well in this window? Who's got better and who's got worse? And this is Birmingham. So they brought in Kai Wagner, John Solis, Ibrahim Osman, August Prisk, Carlos Vincente, and Jonathan Panzo. And they let go in this window a few players, but most of them are out on loan. A few to the Netherlands. Lyndon Dykes has gone to Charlton, so there you go. Blackburn. And while we're here, let's grade it in terms of like old school school grades, A plus, A, B, C, and D. We'll go down to D. We won't go below D. So I think for this, obviously, I don't really know all of these players, but I would say on the face of this, probably a B for them. B. Blackburn, obviously they've got issues at the moment, and if we go down into the players that they brought in, a player that's come back from loan, Cashin, they've loaned him from Birmingham, Jorgensen from Bodo Glimt, Offer Yalayan from St. Pauli. So they've signed 3 players, and they fired their manager, of course. So there you go. Do the transfer business and then fire your manager, and they sold one other player to, is that Chinese team? Shanghai. So they sold Maktar Gayi to a Chinese team. So 3 players in, 1 player out. That's a D. That's got to be a D. They're fighting relegation. If that's all they can do, obviously that's all they can do, but is that going to be enough to keep them up? Who knows? So Bristol City, again, some weird business from them. They're up there at the top, and they've decided to let a few players go, including a few of their better players, like Anis Mehmeti. Obviously, as we've seen with Aidomo Emakhu, if you've got a player who's out of contract and he's telling you he's not going to sign a new contract, you need to cash your chips in. So that is a situation that may be here as well. They signed Sam Morsey, George Urphy on loan, Seb Naylor from Man City's youth team, Delano Bergzog from Middlesbrough, again a loan. There's a lot of weird loans between teams, especially teams at the top of the Championship. Don't know what that's about. Kind of weird that you would loan to a team that you're competing with. But there are like quite a few loans between teams at the top of the Championship. Noah Eiley, they brought him in from USA Red Bulls. Which Red Bulls? New York Red Bulls. And they signed this guy from Sturm Graz. So you would assume the manager's an Austrian. Maybe he knows who that guy is. He knows he's good. So what they got? They brought 5 players in, but again, players that they had here for a while. They got three loans out. Again, they loaned a player out to Hull City. That was another one. That these are the teams you're competing with, and you're loaning them players. Doesn't really make sense to me, unless it's like a double agent. He goes there, he plays, but he passes information to you about what they're doing. I don't know. What do they call it? Corporate espionage. A bit of old Jeffrey Epstein. Well, that was more than that. But and again, Zach Viner to Wrexham. Again, his contract was up and he was going to leave. So, just weird business. They seem to have given up. They seem to have given up on this season. But they have got a lot of fines as well. Maybe it's an issue with the attitude of the players. Their players seemingly like a scrap, not just with us. They've had it with other teams, and this is the second time against us and so that's why they got a higher fine than us. I would probably give this a C. Charlton. Is this going to be enough to keep them up? They've been doing a lot of deals. Look at all these deals they've done. They've done it in the summer. They bought a lot of players in the summer. They brought in Isaac Olofi from Stockport, thinking, he scored goals in League One. Let's try him out in the Championship. And then they let him go back to Stockport, so that didn't work out for them. But in this window, what they signed, they loaned in Harrison Clark from Ipswich. They brought in Lyndon Dykes. Zach Mitchell came back from Hibernian. Did he go? No, okay, he hasn't gone back out. They brought in Luke Chambers from Liverpool's youth team on loan. They signed a guy from Gateshead. Presumably that's one for the future. Can't imagine someone from Gateshead, I believe, in National League North. Don't believe someone from Gateshead's going to come to the Championship and do a job straight away. They loaned in Connor Cody, and this is a weird one. They loaned in a player from Stockport, Jaden Fevrier. Stockport in League One, they're in the Championship. They loaned up a player from the division below. And they brought in this guy from Vojvodina, Kenyan striker, I believe he's a striker. So there you go. And I mean, again, if we go up, so okay, that's a different guy. I saw the Jamaica flag and I thought, did they let that guy go out on loan that they signed already? What's going on with it? They're bringing players in. They've had them half a season and they're letting them go already. But that only happened to Isaac Olofi. I mean, here's the thing. They might stay up, but I don't think it's due to these signings. And they haven't. Did they get any big fees for the players that they let go? Not really. So I mean, how are you going to make any money? They spent money on Kelman. He hasn't done much, has he? So you probably have to give this a C as well. Coventry, obviously, they were running away with the league, and they ain't running away with it no more. They've been caught up. They brought in, obviously, Romain Esse. They brought in this guy from Portsmouth on loan, which, again, weird, but who's that? They brought in a guy from FC Zurich. He's from Suriname, is it? Yeah. They brought in Frank Onyenka from Brentford on loan. So they're not spending any money. They're bringing in players in on loan. They signed a guy. They brought in Kane Kessler for €4 million. What's the deal with that? They don't have any money. They sold a few players. Obikwu, he was loaned out. They brought him back and they sold him straight away to QPR. So maybe they're having to be a bit clever with it in terms of their money. Obviously, we know they've had a long-standing thing with their ground, and they've now back there. Are they still paying for the new ground, or going back to their ground? Is that limiting their playing budget? So I mean, in terms of this being enough for them to win the league, get promoted, push them over the line, I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I'm not sure about that. So I would probably have to give them a C on this as well. I mean, yeah, bit of a weird, who I would imagine this is due to some kind of director of football and not down to Frank Lampard. Just bringing in random people from here, there and everywhere. And then, did Frank Lampard get a say, or just they bring these random loans in and say, there you go, have fun with that? Derby County. So what have they done? And you can see, so they had a lot of these older players before. If you look on the right hand side, and they've just let them go. They let a lot of the dead wood, shall we say. They let them go. Names that you would have heard of: Jeff Hendrick, Mendes Lang, Kamar Roof. Just let them all go. Others as well. Gone. Let them out. Go out on loan. So they let a lot of players go. They made money selling Ebu Adams to Portsmouth. But if you look at the players they brought in, not that many. 4. Oscar Fraulo from Mönchengladbach. Jayden Bennell is a striker on loan from Burnley. DJ Merkin from Utrecht, an English lad that was playing in the Netherlands for 2 million. And they loaned in Sammy Smodics. So, there you go. Interesting stuff. And they have signed some decent players. If you look at the players on the left and the players on the right, they certainly have improved their squad. Carlton Morris, Danny Bath, Andreas Weimann, Agyemang, Ryan Brewster. Although, he didn't do too well at Sheffield United. Lewis Travis, Ben Brereton Diaz. They've certainly improved their squad somewhat by some margin. But in terms of the transfers that they've done in this window, probably give them a B. Give them a B grade for that. Hull City. Yep. So if we look at what they've done, obviously, 2 managers, different managers, whatever. In terms of the window, January. So they loaned in Japanese guy from Bristol City, loaned in guy from Rangers, brought back Paddy McNair from America, loaned in Lewis Kumas, and loaned in Toby Collier from Man United's youth team. And in this window, in terms of players going out, they just loaned out players. And the guy, is it Brandon Williams? Yeah, this was the guy. Off the field problems. He was out of contract for a whole year and more. Was a Man United youngster. I think he went to jail, or it might have been suspended sentence for dangerous driving. Proper career off the rails stuff. They gave him a contract and they've just let him go now. So seemingly that didn't work out. You do wonder, is that on the field or off the field stuff? But in terms of the players coming in, you can see what they're trying to do, and it's interesting that they brought in mostly British players, apart from this Japanese guy, but they brought him in from a British team. So that's interesting there. They're not bringing in a load of foreigners, really. So they're trying to bring in players that know the guy. They know the league, they know the country. They can hit the ground running, shall we say. It's not going to take them time to get up to speed with the cultural exchange. But in terms of quality, obviously they're up there at the moment. They are up there. I'd probably give this a B basically. They haven't been too flashy. They've been trying to select solid players and fill some gaps. So there you go. Ipswich Town. If we scroll down, obviously didn't get Femi Aziz, but they have been spending money in the summer. At least in January they didn't. All they've done in January, they signed Dan Neil from. I thought it was O'Neill. Was it not O'Neill? I thought it was Dan Neil from Sunderland. And Bristol City guy Anis Mehmeti for €3.5 million, and that's they've already spent all this money. How much have they spent there? They spent like 40 million already in the summer. Madness, and they've spent all that money and then we're at the bottom of the table. Obviously turned it around now, But that's the thing. Like I was saying just now, you're bringing all these foreign players for lots of money, and they don't gel straight away. They don't do too well. Take some time, and it did take them some time. And if you look at they've loaned out 2 players to Charlton and Derby. So interesting they loaned out Smodics to Derby. Derby obviously they're like 7th or 8th. So clearly Ipswich ain't bothered about loaning that player to them. Don't really care. So, but they've bring in only 2 players. They clearly wanted more because they were trying to get Femi Aziz. So you've got to imagine. Although to be fair, they spent all that money. I didn't see they sold Amari Hutchinson to Nottingham Forest for 40 million, and Broadhead to Wrexham. So the money they spent is the money that they brought in. To be fair, but I mean, only bringing in 2 players, like you've got a real chance to win it. But then this is the thing. They brought in a load of players in the summer, and it took time for them to gel. So now they've got a good thing going. They don't want to upset the apple cart and just throw a load more players into that. So they'll probably give that a B then. Probably a B grade for that. Leicester City. Here we go. Who have they signed? They loaned in a few players on a free transfer. So Joe Aribo from Southampton on loan. Lascelles from Newcastle on a free. Divine Mukasu from Man City youth team on loan. And Dujuan Richards from Chelsea's youth team on loan. And then they they sacked their manager midway through the transfer window. They sold a player to Mexico, loaned out a player to Monaco, and sent a player to is that Qatar? Yeah, that's Qatar. I mean, that's not very good, is it? But here's the thing: are they under some kind of transfer embargo though? It's not official though, but I think they are expecting it now. Because you can see, look, free, loan. So if they are under a transfer embargo that we don't know about, I think they might be. To some extent. I mean, this is, it's the best they can do. So you've got to give them a D, really. I mean, a few loans, 2 of them from a Premier League youth team, and a free transfer. That's a D, innit? I mean, they're in the middle of the table. Nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to go down unless they get minus 20 points. That'll be fun, won't it? If Charlton gets saved because Leicester get minus 20, although at this stage of the season, I would imagine it gets pushed to next season. Right, Middlesbrough. Here we go. What's going on with them? Where are we? So, what have they done? Leo Cassadine from Huddersfield. He wasn't from Huddersfield though, was he? He's a Chelsea player. He was on loan at Huddersfield. They spent money for Finley Munro from Swindon Town, 400k, and a loan from Brighton and a loan from West Brom. This is a team that's second in the league. And what else have they done? They had a Man City player in on loan. He's gone back. Kante's gone on loan to France. Again, Delano Bergzog's gone on loan to Bristol City. Again, a weird one. You're at the top of the table. They're near the top of the table. And you're loaning them a player. And they let a player go to Salt Lake City in America. I mean, I'll give that one a C, basically. I mean, yeah, C. We'll give that a C. They did most of the business in the summer. Yeah, and they did spend a few quid as well, although, they sold Finn Azaz to Southampton. So they're just spending money that they've already made. But, give that a C. Millwall, here we go. Did you hear about Bender? Apparently he's gone to Feyenoord. Yep. So, what have we got? We've got Barry Bannon. We've got Patterson. We've got Tom Watson. And this is in the future, apparently. Ben Drake's coming back from his loan on the 25th of April. Well, that's going to be fun. They're not going to make the playoffs, are they? They'll be lucky if they avoid relegation, to be honest. And, what have we got? We sent Bender back. Kamal Grant's gone out on loan, but he's been injured. Wes Ireland's gone out on loan. And Aidomo Emakhu, we got 7 figures for him. We signed 2 decent players. And again, we've gone for British players. Barry Bannon, Patterson, Tom Watson. I think apart from Mazu Sakho, who's been fucking solid when he has been playing, you got Ballo, who's a bit hit and miss, and you got Negley. Obviously, we didn't sign him this year. Again, he's hot and cold, bit hit and miss. But I think you brought in players that know the league. You brought in players that know the playoffs because they won them last season. And you brought in a player that can understand the manager. They speak the same language, Scottish. So probably give that a B. Just because there was always room for improvement. But I mean, in terms of what we could have done, I don't think there's much. Obviously, we kept on to Femi Aziz as well. But then again, why did I wait till the last minute? Here's the thing: if that would have happened earlier on in the window, 20 million offer for Femi Aziz, would we have then gone, oh, let's take this, or would he found out about it and then decided to move, or said, hey, can I have a look at this, and can we maybe get this deal done? Because obviously he's just had his first kid, so I'm sure he wants to be a millionaire overnight by signing for Ipswich Town. But if that would have come earlier in the window, would they have then taken it and said, well, let's take that money and put it back into the team? Because that's what they did with Romain Esse, the money we got for him. Those are the players that we're seeing on the pitch at the moment. So, it's like a cycle. You have to keep doing it. So, almost certainly in the summer, Femi Aziz will probably be sold if a bid comes in. Maybe Crammer as well. And we'll see how we go. But, got to give this a B. A B. Norwich City. Poor old Norwich, who were in a relegation place. I think they climbed out of it at the moment. And they've been replaced by West Brom. What have they done in this window? They brought in Ali Ahmed, who apparently scored a load of goals. And 2 million for a guy from Vancouver. Apparently Vancouver's team, there's a problem there. I've just seen, apparently there's a YouTube video just popped up in my feed. I didn't watch it, but the thumbnail saying that, they might have to move ground, and then that could end up with the club folding, which is, the American sports franchises, they're not real. They're just literally just businesses. It's very bizarre, but I'm sure there's some very good players. But not only that, they have a summer league and they're transferring now to a winter league. So they do have some decent players there. But the thing is, North America's a very unique place. So when these players come to Europe, it's a massive culture shock for them. Can they still perform? They've loaned in Harry Amass. They've nicked him off a Sheffield Wednesday. He was a Man United player. They signed Paris Magoma from Brentford. They signed this guy from Randers. Was he Australian? No, he's Australian. And they signed Sam Field from QPR on loan. And that's another one. And they only let one player go. Finley Welsh has gone to South Korea. What's that about? Why has he gone there? I don't know. But you can see that. Look, they signed this guy early in the window because the North American MLS is in close season. So they signed this guy 5th of the 1st. And this is a thing. All you teams at it, stop waiting until the last day. It's fucking stupid as fuck. They signed him. He's been scoring goals. They've now climbed up the table. They're out of the relegation places. So you've got to give them, I'm going to give them an A. The fruits have already been born. They've got an A for their signings there. €2 million for a guy that's already scored about what was it, 3 or 4 goals in a month, and a couple of assists as well. Fantastic bit of business. Fantastic. Now Oxford, look at this. What a churn! What a churn this is. Look at how many players we got coming in and going. Jesus, complete turnaround. Complete and utter turnaround. Wow. What have we got? Again, they sacked the manager in the 11th of January, halfway through the window. Well, they brought in a guy from Mansfield. Presumably that's a youngster. They brought in Emakhu. They brought in Ruben Ruskin from Huddersfield on loan. A guy from Luton Town on loan again. Huddersfield are in League One. Luton Town are in League One. Mansfield, I think they might be in League Two. They might be in League One. You're signing players from the division below. If you keep doing that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up in the division below, because, even if you get the best players in League One, which you're not, because you got them in on loan, the best players in League One cost money still. You're only going to be mid-table in the Championship if you do that. But they haven't. They brought in these other players in on loan. They're saying this is a loan. Emakhu is a loan. That's not a loan. So again, like I said, it's not 100% accurate. Probably guessed it's probably about 96% accurate. They loaned in this guy from Brentford. And again, they got rid of some players as well. Sibley's gone, Bradshaw's gone, out on loan. So they loaned out all these players. So you do wonder if they do that, because if they do get relegated, are they gonna bring these players back and keep them in League One? Don't know. Probably not, because maybe there's going to be an issue with wages. But I'd probably give them a C for this, to be honest. C. I don't think it's going to be it might not be enough to keep them up, but they did what they could. They tried. Portsmouth, they got 2 games in hand on everyone, because they struggled to get a game on at their own ground. Ice, it's like a fucking biblical plague. Flood, pestilence, electric power cuts, all kinds of shit. Which means games get postponed on the island, on Hayling Island, where Portsmouth is based. What have they done? They've loaned in players from the division below. They've loaned in players from Luton. Milenic Ali from Luton. Jacob Brown from Luton. They've loaned in a guy from Sunderland. They brought in Keshi Anderson on a free. This guy from Brazil. Is that a Paraguay flag? Is he Paraguayan? Yeah. And then they signed a guy from the Norwegian team. Madio Dia. What a name. And they loaned out a guy to Coventry. And they let a guy go to Aberdeen on a free transfer. So only 3 players out and a few players in. They spent money on Ebu Adams from Derby. I don't know. Probably a C on that as well. A C. Preston, obviously they are, near the top of the table. Fallen off a bit. A lot of churn here. A lot of churn. A lot of players going in, a lot of players going out. Players that have been there a while. Emil Reese, Freddie Woodman, Ched Evans. And in this window, they sold for Dawson. Will Keane's gone out on loan. And they sold Mads Frockier to Brøndby. And what have they done? They spent money on a guy from Brighton, Andrew Moran. Got quite a strong Irish connection at Preston. What else have they done? So they've only signed Lukovic on loan and Callum Lang from Portsmouth. I mean, that's not bolstering your squad that much, is it? Probably give them a C for that. Give them a C. QPR. Yeah, they're not that far off in terms of points, but they are, in positions they are quite far down the table. They've loaned out a few players, and they let Michael Frey go to Grasshoppers, which is, I think when we played them, he was one of the better players, but I think he did come off the bench, so he looked fresh. In terms of what they brought in, they haven't brought in anyone, really. They brought in Ronnie Edwards from Southampton, and Justin Obikwu. They paid money for him from Coventry. So that's not a lot, is it? And I mean, well, they did a bit of business in the summer. They got Kone, they got Burrell, they got that poker geezer on a free. I mean, yeah, you could probably give them a D on that, really. So you don't know how constrained they are. I think, does the owner want to sell as well? I think they want to sell, but you're not really backing them, are you? Just by bringing in two players. Sheffield United, back under the guidance of Chris Wilder. So they sacked him after he lost the playoff final in the summer. Brought in Ruben Sellers, brought in all these players, and they did an absolute nightmare. Changed their manager, and it's all turned around. He immediately brought in, Jairo Wiedewald on a free, Patrick Bamford on a free, which is, again, we were looking for a striker. Could we have afforded these wages? I mean, probably not, but, we only had Ivanovic fit. I don't think he would have come to us, to be honest. I think he was trying to get to Spain, and that the manager there said, if you sign this guy, I'm fucking quitting, and that never happened. But he goes to Sheffield United and starts banging goals in. What have they done? They've loaned in a guy from Wolves. They've loaned in a guy from Sunderland. They've loaned in Calvin Phillips from Man City. He was on the bench the other day. And they signed Joe Rothwell from Rangers. And they've loaned some players out. Probably give that a B, but probably not based on what they've done this month. Based on just getting Patrick Bamford, but that was in November. But give them a B. Sheffield Wednesday, poor old Sheffield Wednesday. What can they do again? Transfer embargo, loans in. They lost their players for free because they didn't pay their wages. Windass waltz, other players waltz. Yeah, it's not good, is it? They sold Barry Bannon, sold Cadamato to raise funds to make sure that they could carry on until the end of the season. And while they're waiting for a buyer, because the process of all the paperwork in terms of fit and proper person takes so long. That's after you've done the deal. So you go through a bidding process. You look at the bidders. Okay, you accept that bid, and then you wait because they have to go through all this stuff. And then if that doesn't happen, that falls through. You have to start again. So yeah, interesting stuff. What could they do? They loaned in who they loaned in. They loaned in two players from Luton Town. Or they brought in two players from, I don't know if that one's a loan, Nakamba. They brought in a guy from Palace on loan. They brought in a guy from Man City. Is that Emil Heskey's kid, Jaden Heskey? And brought in a guy from QPR on loan. Yeah, that's all they can do is loans. They brought in Joe and Darla from Hull City on loan. So they sold players to make money, and they brought in loans. Obviously, they are going down. They know they're going down. They still need to put out a competitive team on the pitch. Fair play to them. They did. They played yesterday. Was it yesterday? And they only lost 1-0. So the players are playing. The players are trying, which is a problem, a concern that I had that wouldn't be the case. But Yeah, I mean, it's got a bit of D in it though. I mean, it's a D because they know they're going down. Southampton, so we're nearly at the end. Southampton. What did they do? They did a lot of business in the summer. Spend a lot of money. Finn Azaz, Tom Fellows, Casper Janda. Millions and millions of pounds in transfer fees. And it ain't done them no good. And they've brought in a player that I've kept an eye on for a while, Carl Larin. Been banging the goals in for Canada. He's a main striker. But other than that, well, they brought in Daniel Peretz. He's a keeper. They brought him in from Bayern. Even though they already got a good keeper. And then that meant they had to loan the keeper that they've got who's already good. They loaned him out. All very weird. Yeah, but look at the... It's like the United Colours of Benetton. It's like the United Nations. Look what we got here. You know, a Belgium, Italian, Swedish player, German, Spanish, American, Denmark. It's all over the place. So no wonder no wonder they're not doing too well. It's a mixed mash of nationalities. And you look here, they sold Adam Armstrong to Wolves for 8 million, which is, Wolves are going down. So they've let Adam Armstrong go to Wolves, presumably for Wolves next season to do well in this division, with him playing for him. And they've just brought in loans, a couple of loans, 2 loans. I mean, that's got to be a D. I mean, sorry, that's yeah. I mean, you're spending money, and look, they loaned in Jules Long. That's a D all day long. D, not good at all. Too bad. What have you got here? Stoke. Is that Stoke? Stoke City. They loaned in that Gavin Bazunu. They took advantage of the situation where, Southampton brought in this guy from Germany. They loaned in a guy from Go Ahead Eagles. They loaned in Raksaki from Rizespor. Was it? No, he's at Palace, isn't he? Is he not from Crystal Palace? And they signed Atto Ampa from Chelsea for 3.5 million. That's a lot for a youngster. But, so 4 players in and 2 players out. I would say that's pretty decent, actually. Gavin Bazunu's good keeper. He's a good keeper. It's just the circumstances that he got let go. Probably give that a B, actually. Yeah, give that a B. Swansea. Moving on to that. What have they done in the window? Okay. 2 loans. Nunes from Brentford and Volta from IK Sirius. Loaned out Bobby Wales. Loaned out Manuel Benson to Maccabi Haifa. Okay. Again, not really sure what's going on here. What's the strategy? What are we trying to do here? Although Ethan Galbraith, that was in the summer, 2 million for that. Yeah, he's playing pretty decent, isn't he? Playing quite well. But I mean, it's not. Here's the thing, though. They're firmly mid-table. They know they're not going to go down. They know they've got no chance of the playoffs. So I think they're just biding their time. And, they bring in a few players just to appease the fans. Hey, look, everyone. We brought in these players. So probably give that a D, actually. Yeah, they didn't try. Last minute. The fans are upset. Let's bring someone in. Watford. obviously managerless at the moment. And the manager, the day before the transfer window ends, the manager calls a meeting with the owner and says, yeah, I'm resigning. So what was that about? Was that because they were trying to sign Danny McNamara? He wasn't happy with the signings because they have signed a fair old few players, well, not really, because the list here says manager, assistant manager. So basically all they signed was, what they signed? They signed Bove on a free. They signed Kasey from Udinese on loan, Muffney from Man City on loan, and Pierre-Emerick from Saint Etienne. They didn't really let anyone go either, so I would probably say that's probably a C, really, a C. But you do wonder, why is the manager spit the dummy out and resigned on that? I don't know. Is this the last one? West Brom? No, Wrexham are last. Okay, West Brom. Nearly there. We're nearly there. If you're still watching, we're nearly there. We're just having a look at who they've signed, who everyone's signed. So West Brom, they're now in the relegation places. They have to fight their way back out of that, and in order to do that, they have signed Max O'Leary from Bristol City, Imre on loan from Palace, and Jimmo on loan. Alright, Jimmo! From Aston Villa on loan. And they loaned out Joe Wildsmith to Middlesbrough and Ling to Pisa. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, and if you look what they did in the summer, they let a lot of players go in the summer. Tom Fellows, 10 million. Furlong for 4 million. Egham for 7 million. And half of that's been spent on the squad. And they're now in the relegation places. And, they bring in 3 players, 2 on loan. I mean, that's got to be a D, innit? That's got to be a D all day long. And now, last but not least, Wrexham. What have they done? Obviously, they are at the top of the table. They're 1 place behind us. 1 point behind us. They signed a player from Bootle? That can't be right. Tom Kelly. Zach Viner, they signed that guy from Bristol City. They signed Keller Dunn from Barnsley. And they signed Calamateri. And they let a lot of players go. So they still got these players left over from when they were coming up from League One. Funny, they let James McLean go back to Derry City. And he's beefing with the fans over there. So it's not about him being in England, he's just a fucking cunt. Because he's doing the same thing and it's happening to him in Ireland. So how does that work out? They loaned out Cody, they loaned out Mullin, they loaned out Hardy, they loaned out Lee. So these players who contracts are going to be running out and they've just loaned them out. But some decent signing coming in. You look at what's gone out and you look at what's gone in, they've certainly improved their squad. They have strengthened, so which they needed to do. You think, at the moment that they at the start of the season when we played them, they were absolutely awful, but they managed to win 2-0. But with a style of football that was atrocious, and they've started to win games and they've climbed up the table. So probably give that a B actually. And there you go. That's it. I've just shown you all of the transfers in the EFL Championship. And on that note, thank you for watching and goodbye.